is an opportunity to drop in, to drop in, to drop in. Every feeling, every thought, every story is an opportunity to take responsibility and drop it, and drop it, and drop it. We are freedom, we are spaciousness, we are spirit, we are consciousness, we are each other, we are love, we are love. We are love. Every moment, every second, every hour, every day is an opportunity to drop in, to drop in, to drop in. Every feeling, every thought, every story is an opportunity to take responsibility and drop it, and drop it, and drop it, and drop it, and drop it.
One minute, I'm getting my papers in the right order. Middle-aged woman had a heart attack and was taken to the hospital. While on the operating table, she's had a near-death experience. Seeing God, she asked, "Is my time up?" God answered, "No, you have another 40 years, 2 months and 8 days to live." Upon recovery, the woman decided to stay in the hospital and have a facelift, liposuction, and a tummy tuck. She even had someone come in and change her hair color. Since she had so much more time to live, she thought she might as well make the most of it. After her last operation, she was released from the hospital. While crossing the street on her way home, she was hit by a car and died immediately. Arriving in front of God, she demanded, "I thought you said I had another 40 years. Why didn't you pull me out of the path of the car?" God replied, "I didn't recognize you." to be so heavy at times, you know. You got to lighten up too. A new monk arrives at the monastery. He is assigned to help the other monks in copying the old texts by hand. He notices, however, that they are copying copies, not the original books. So the new monk goes to the head monk to ask him about this. He points out that if there were an error in the first copy, that error would be continued in all of the other copies. The head monk says, "We have been copying from the copies for centuries, but you make a good point, my son." So he goes down into the cellar with one of the copies to check it against the original. Hours later, nobody has seen him. So one of the monks goes downstairs to look for him. He hears a sobbing coming from the back of the cellar and finds the old monk leaning over one of the original books and crying. He asks, "What's wrong?" "The word is celebrate," says the old monk. Another one. How many of you expected to be coming here laughing?
Nobody raised their hand.
No one raised their hand. Just to make a point that, you know, you don't know the truth. Here's a comment. "I hope when I inevitably choke to death on gummy bears, people just say I was killed by bears and leave it at that." So the Zen master steps up to the hot dog cart and says, "Make me one with everything." The hot dog vendor fixes a hot dog and hands it to the Zen master, who pays with a $20 bill. The hot dog vendor puts the bill in the cash drawer and closes the drawer. "Where's my change?" asks the Zen master. The hot dog vendor responds, "Change must come from within." Okay, one last one. A dying man smells his favorite oatmeal about dying. No, that's not the right sentence. I wrote my words. No, wrong. Let's start again. A dying man smells his favorite oatmeal raisin cookies cooking downstairs. It takes all the strength he has left, but he gets up from the bed and crawls down the stairs. He sees the cookies cooling on the counter and staggers over to them. As he reaches for one, his wife's wrinkled hand reaches out, smacks his, and she yells, "No, you can't have those. They're for the funeral." Okay. So, you know, when I thought about doing this talk on Thursday, it's been like I had to like really reflect, like, what can I offer? You know, like, who am I? We all have loss, and but you know, I really actually feel like my skill is to know what I'm feeling and to put words to it. And my education in the past has been movement therapy, so I relate the world through my body. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not. But the topic of loss for me is very current. And it's very confronting to the person that's dealing with losing something and the person that's listening, that the person that's being present to those that are losing something or in fear of losing something, or, so it's an opportunity, really, what I have found, to see what's old in me that gets triggered around loss. And so any one loss can access all the losses of your whole life. And that's why it feels sometimes so unmanageable, because you haven't let all your feelings be okay over your lifetime. I'm speaking for myself, so just assume that I'm speaking for myself. But loss is not just big losses. There are little losses every day. Every day you have to decide whether to honor yourself, honor someone else, give up some expectation that you've held, relationship breakups, and of course, aging is a huge loss. A constant moment-to-moment investigation. And so, to me, I've been, my mother died when she was 51 and I was 26. And it was a sudden death. And I could still remember the shock in the body, where you get that phone call. And actually, in that shock, I did not cry. I didn't have the emotions, they weren't accessible at the moment. Especially if it was a mother that wasn't, like I loved her endlessly, we had dynamics, and so, you're all kind of faced with everything in death. And then, I was thinking of my best friend, Scott, who knew my mother. I grew up with him, died when he was 46. And he lived on the East Coast, and he was my best friend, and we traveled in psychological, emotional places, spiritual places, without even knowing it. We were so connected as a best friend. And that loss doesn't just show up right when it happens. It could show up, 5 years later, 10 years later, or a year later. It doesn't have a timing. And it doesn't end. It's not like, oh, you're done. It's just layers of loss and grief to let it be. So with my friend Scott, I felt him more than missing when I felt like I needed someone to talk to. My best friend who I could talk about anything with. So different ways the losses show up over time. And I've been just, being around people that have gone through incredible devastation, suicides, and sons of, killing themselves. I mean, it's not an easy world to hold when you're aware, when you're around life. So, right now I have a friend that's very ill, and I am entering places that I have avoided. I have been, and I keep looking at what is the fear that I have of just being someone who's dying. What is that fear? Anyone else have any fear about being around someone who's very ill or dying, or is it just me? Okay, used to. Yeah. Is anyone relating to this loss? Just all the different losses that are around. Yeah. So it's a challenge to really be with everything. I mean, you can easily get overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed. Let's just face it. Politics is overwhelming. you know, I have never been political, and I'm not going to make a political stance now. And I never realized the things that I took for granted as freedoms and ways of being. And so there is loss. I don't really hold it as permanent loss, because I'm not thinking future like, oh my God, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. I'm more like, right now, there's loss. I don't know about the next minute or the next day. Every morning, I wake up and I am forced to be in my body. And that's out of pain, really. And it's been a good teacher, because I have to pay attention. And, you know, I don't know if all of it, I'd like to hear from you, how many of you feel connected into your feeling body and know when you're feeling and what you're feeling? Okay, so, you know, not everyone. And then, how many people have a way to emote, express those feelings? Yeah, and how many, you know, what I'm noticing is, I think I have been crying almost every morning. And when I say that, people are like, oh, so sorry. You know, and my impulse with that is I want to get away. Because I just want people, you know, it's like people make sadness and grief like it's not okay, or that it should be done, or that it's like to get to happiness, or to get to being, I was at the gym in the morning, and this woman I don't know very well said, you know, we say, how are you, kind of thing. And one time I said, I'm okay. And I had to squeeze that out. And she says, just okay? And, you know, and that was like, this was a mirror for me. Okay, where is it where I'm not okay with me? Because I'm reacting, you know, that I want everyone else to think I'm okay, even when I'm crying, even when I'm grieving. There's no other place to be but right here. You know, so, and the culture doesn't allow you to just cry. And I mean, you know, I'm on the stretching mat in the gym, and there it is. I'm like, I can't let it not come, you know, and I allow myself to let the tears, I create space so the tears can come. And it comes and it goes, just like anything else. You know, I'm here to cheer everybody on, to let the grief come, let the feelings come, for as long as they need to come. Years from now, you know, I was talking to someone who was judging herself for not being done with her grief 5 years later, of her son committing suicide. I'm like, no, you know, this is whenever it's done, and maybe it's never done. It's never done, you know. But really, the mission, I think, for me, is how to allow myself to go through this journey with allowance and acceptance. And Mira, I'm going to ask you to read that first. Mira gave me this poem, and Mira's a very dear friend since '93. She moved here, and actually, you know, I'll just say, Mira, she's not expecting this, but here's yours. When I first moved here, I did a workshop with her called Into the Mystery, and it was really about letting ourselves be where we're at and honoring the journey of our feeling state and supporting each other and being absolutely who we are. And so, you know, it was a great support in that group for me at the time, and for many women who have never had a safe environment to be present with each other in the deepest feelings that we have. Because we have lots of deep feelings, and we keep hiding them and not, you know, like, where is it okay to just be who we are? So, allow.
This poem came to me several years ago, and it spoke deeply to me. And it's called Allow. There is no controlling life. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow and grace will carry you to higher ground. Allow and grace will carry you to a higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in. The only safety is letting it all in. The wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, success. When loss rips off the doors of the heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth. Practice becomes simply bearing the truth. In the choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to you through new eyes. In your choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to you through your new eyes.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm laughing at myself because these papers are so disorganized because I don't usually use papers. But, okay, I'm ready.
Wise, and only for love, the more
Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about someone anymore. It's just realizing that the only person you really have control over is yourself. Letting go means to come to the realization that some people are a part of your history, but not a part of your destiny. I'll say that one again. Letting go means to come to the realization that some people are a part of your history, but not a part of your destiny.
Wow.
Cry, forgive, learn, move on. Let your tears water the seeds of your future happiness. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, but rather learning to start over. You must learn to let go, release the stress. You were never in control anyway. So, the things that I feel that are important around dealing with your grief and your sadness and your feelings is that it does affect your body. I am a nutritionist. That's what the PhD is. And I do work with people that are dealing with incredible loss and grief and trauma in my practice. And every thought, every feeling impacts the body. You know, and so to contain it, your feelings, yes, it's appropriate in certain situations, but it's so important to make time for yourself. Make time, even if it's just 10 minutes of just checking in with your body, like go right now, like sit in, uncross your legs, put your feet on the ground, and I want you to think about, let's say, someone you lost, or some situation that has changed, a job that you lost. Maybe it's not being able to sit in your life for a year and a half, or not being able to go kayaking anymore, or whatever the body is presenting some limitations. And think about those. Now, where do you feel that in your body? Does it feel like a tension or a contraction? Does it feel numb? Is there a place that you can't feel anything? And take a breath, full breath, and just let it go. I'm going to invite you to also move your jaws, because we hold a lot in our jaw. Just to soften. Where are you holding? Is it in your shoulders, in your neck? Are you spinning in your head so it turns into just a thought circle? Do you feel like you're not taking full breaths? And breathe into that place that feels tight. What I've noticed is that we want to be received with our feelings. And not everyone can do that, except for yourself. There are people and friends that you can trust with the deepest parts of your heart, hopefully because they've experienced that aspect of themselves, that they can have presence for you. But ultimately, it's going to be your job to get present for yourself. There are many times when I get to a point where I think, what's life about? Why are we here? And especially when you lose things, and everything you think was what your life was about is not. Sometimes that happens. And, but you have to get used to letting go into that space of the unknown. And it's not easy because, some people fear being on the streets. I hear people like they don't know if they'll have a home. Okay, so then where does that land in me? So everything that you are taking in is also landing somewhere in you. And so it's an opportunity to just slow down and start checking in. I've become addicted to my cell phone and news and being on the computer, and it takes me every effort to leave my phone home for a little bit, to do things that I am attached to. Ultimately, death is about non-attachment. Loss is about non-attachment. And it's not just this simple, oh yeah, I'm not attached, It's feeling the attached. It's feeling the love, feeling the missing, even the envy. There's envy when you see other people happy and you're in the grief, I'm still speaking for myself. I don't know anybody else but me, but so it really is an opportunity to bring your awareness back to yourself, into your body. And the body really can be a tool for you. It could be a source of information, and it can be a way to move your emotions. And I did 3 years of movement therapy where we did incredibly cathartic expression through movement, witnessing people on the floor flailing out of control, all the deepest feelings. I don't know if that's necessary. I really don't. I learned well, but even just attention, even just bringing awareness can soften those places. Feeling helpless. How many times do you feel helpless in the face of someone sick or dying, or you don't know what to say, you don't know how to be? You're feeling all these feelings, and then you don't want to dump them on someone else who's also going through grief and loss. There's a swirl of things getting activated when you're in the face of someone dying or not doing well, So, taking responsibility for what goes on in here, whether it's about being in silence, not saying anything, just being still with your own experience, and investigating what is operating here. What am I really afraid of? My friend, I was afraid of her going unconscious and what do I do? Or I hate vomiting. Oh no, But there's a fierce commitment to walk through those uncomfortable places. And I'm not one to say push through everything, because I don't think that's true, but it's up to you to know when you are doing a pattern that's about retreating and when you need to push through something. Anybody have anything to say about anything I've said? maybe, things that you may have needed or wanted or need right now?
Yeah, I have things to say. Usually when something, I have a loss, it's basically I recognize that, forgive us for we don't know, you know what I mean, we don't know. But what I do is I cry a lot. But those are tears of joy, but no one would ever know that because letting go is a very hard thing to do. And basically, ignorance and stupidity is something that we've been trained to hang on to. But when you learn enough of yourself, loving yourself, you're your best lover. And so when you see other people going through grief, like this gentleman over here, I can watch what's going on. I feel sad. It saddens me because, we don't need to go through this because all the time when we grieve, grieving, I grieve a lot. And I cry a lot, and I'm around a lot of people right now with this whole experience on the planet. There's a lot of grieving going on, and deeply we're all being touched by it every day, and I recognize it. So sometimes it's tears of joy for me to see that people have to process that.
Yeah.
That processed a lot in my life,
Yeah.
and that's how I become the person I am today. And that's just a little bit of knowledge and wisdom that I have in myself.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I love in the New Testament that Yeshua grieved. He grieved, he didn't hold back his heart. And for me, what I get a sense of, it's just like my guides, my heart and my breath. Because I can become very aware of how retracted I am when I realize, hey, I'm not breathing. And that's an old pattern with me. Then I can also feel so intensely when there is something that needs to come through me and to be shared, because my heart just starts beating like it wants that attention to be expressed. And when I express it, I feel peace. I feel peace. And so I wanted to share that. And also that I heard something back in the 90s that was on NPR. And there was a council of UN foreign ambassadors. And they were talking about, well, what could the United States do to improve its relationships, internationally? And it was not an easy time, and the United States didn't have this wonderful image. And so there was some deliberation and some expression of, I have no idea. And then one man spoke, and unfortunately I didn't get his name. But he said, we need to come together as a country and breathe. There is so much we hold, that has not been allowed to be expressed. And we, in order to inspire or relate to the rest of the world, we have got to be able to feel our breathing. I thought that was perhaps the most wise thing I've heard from our government. But
Yeah, I've just equated grieving as a muscle that needs to be exercised. It's there. Any emotion can become a muscle, like where you're just dancing with it. You're letting it have its way. Yes.
I'd like to talk about an experience about feelings that we didn't have. I had a friend who lost, she had an animal for about 3 years, and she considered that animal like a child. And when the animal died, it took her about 2 years, really to grieve, and I didn't have any place in myself. What is that? I couldn't feel that feeling. And just about 15 years later, that I recall for the first time having an animal myself for about a few months. I was 10 years old, and it was my cousin's dog. And at the end of the season, he took it back. And I felt so much pain that I shut myself completely. I realized that. I couldn't allow myself to feel that feeling was so painful. So I just shut myself.
Right.
And in friends and anybody who would have that feeling, I couldn't understand it. It was from the discovery. Just up to the point where I really touched by that place, where 10 years old, I shut myself up. I didn't know, it was unconscious. But in front of everything which happened in my life after that, I didn't have any reaction. I couldn't feel that urge, that feeling. So, and my father died too, and my mother, so on. All those things in which, once those things happens, like there's a place where you shut up, because you cannot deal with it. Up to the point where maybe 50 or 70 years later, suddenly you say, wow, what's happening here? And then you touch that place, and then you learn to have compassion for others, because you realize that your door was closer.
Yes, thank you. Nancy. Nancy, I think I'm going to give you a mic. So you're around to try.
There is I guess a practice, something that I have, that has come to me, that is natural now, is that it's like meditation when regrets or grief, which often happens with loss, or what ifs, or all those things, to allow them to come up and then to come back center. Just like in meditation, you don't squelch anything, you allow it to arise, and you don't entertain it or feed it. You just have awareness and gently come back to center, where there's no regret, no guilt, no time, no space. And just always coming back center. Because if you feed those things, the regrets, the guilt, then they can become your demons. And so that's a good flowing practice.
Excellent, thank you. You know, I was thinking about spiritual bypass, because that's something that has to be mentioned in my mind, is that, you know, we've all been part of spiritual practices, programs, ideas, concepts, and it can be used as a strategy to deal with feelings. And some of that is good and okay, but some of it it could be a distraction, could be an escape, could be an avoidance. So it's up to you to know yourself whether you're avoiding or not. Do you think you know when you're avoiding? No. Yeah. And I have to talk about present moment, only moment, because ultimately that's where the peace is. You know, you can have grief and still enjoy a flower. You can have both at the same time. You could feel love here, fear here. You can hold everything at the same time. But part of, you know, when you're in a deep downward spiral, which we get into, I mean, there are phases in our life that you know, present intense letting go and changes. Anything that's, life is about change. So we have to really, that's really where we have to gracefully accept that. And so really, present moment, only moment, is where we go, is the practice. It's like, okay, am I in future? Am I in past? And I'm not saying that when someone dies, you don't think about the past, because you just think and feel everything. So that this is not that. This is about when you're spinning in your head, trying to feel safe by creating a scenario or an expectation or a certain way that the future has to be, and this is where I'm supposed to do this, and that is a spin sometimes, because right now, right here, nothing's happening. We're right here, nothing is happening. So in terms of having intense feelings, self-regulation is a practice. It's about learning how to come in and out in a healthy way of being with your deep feelings. And that takes slowing down, awareness, and a willingness. Are you willing? Are you willing to be with your feelings more? Anybody here? Yeah. Where are you, holding back? Where are you judging your own process? Where are you, saying that you should be done by now? If you have fear of jumping off the cliff, yeah, there's fear of jumping off the cliff. Doesn't mean you have to stop or not jump off the cliff. Sometimes you're pushed to jump off the cliff, and you don't know what's going to happen. So non-attachment is a minute-to-minute practice of not trying to plan and put the future in your daily moment-to-moment happiness. So, I do many things. I have, this past year, joined a choir. And I have never sung in a choir out of fear of not being able to, whether it was about memorizing or keeping it, a tune. But it was the best thing I've ever done. It got me out of a deep depression. So what I'm saying here is that it is up to you to take little steps to push you out of your little comfort zone. Because it is very easy to stay safe, stay home, and not be in the world. And sometimes that's important. I mean, absolutely important. But there's a balance. If you're just escaping all the time, that's maybe that's okay. Maybe that for some people that might be great, But I do believe that we all need love, and we all need to be seen and heard, and feel part of a community. So I encourage anyone to take just a little risk out of a pattern, to be more like relational, if that's what's needed. I'm not comfortable with, sometimes in groups, but I put myself in there to just get myself used to it, So, I encourage you to slow down, become aware of your body. Like, when you're standing in line, like, what is your body doing? I always, because of my situation, I've been standing literally, everywhere. But I'm always moving. I'm always aware of what my body's doing. You know, so if you're standing, how about if you all stand? Let's just see about this. And, you know, and for those that aren't able to stand and be solid on their feet, please stay down. This is not a pushing you through an experience. What I'd like you to do, that's good, is to take a walk slow with your heels. I'm going to show it first. But you're basically going to start being aware of your feet and how you're connected to the ground. So you're going to be aware. We're going to do a silent meditation walk right now. And so just find a place in this room and start placing. You're going to be aware of your feet. Head, the heel to the toe, slowly. You're going to have your feet, your knees slightly bent. You're going to how about if you just feel the earth with your knees bent, just down, having your energy go down into the ground. If you're locking your knees, that means you're ungrounded. So slightly bend them, and then slowly take a walk. Slowly feeling head to toe. Be aware of your breath. Feel the ground under your feet. Heel, toe. Keeping your knees slightly bent. Notice if you're holding in your shoulders, in your jaw, let go of your jaw. Notice your breath. And if you want, you can do a slight bending of your knee to feel the support of the ground. Slow. And stop. Close your eyes. And just notice who's around you, who's close to you physically. There's an exercise where you pair up. How about if you just stand in front of someone about 4 feet from each other? You don't have to eye gaze or anything. And bend your knees slightly, shoulder width apart, your feet. And I want you to feel how it feels to be in proximity of this other person. Is there enough space in between you to feel safe? Do you need more space in between you to move away? Okay, now I want you to move closer, like a foot, towards each other. And just notice that you're smiling and uncomfortable. But this is is important. It's uncomfortable. They've entered your private space. This is something important for you to be aware of. Who you are in a body, in the world, in space. When you walk into someone's room that someone is dying, are you able to feel what's going on in that room with your body? Now, if you're not close, and if you're too close, step a foot away again. If it feels too close. What's the most comfortable place for you? Okay, some are going closer because you're related. Okay, let's come back. Come back to the seats over here. We'll just... Let's do the song. I want to do it when you... Richard has a song, so we're going to have him sing, and then I actually think we should do a collection. Should we do it after?
I kind of rediscovered this song from my archives. I wrote it when I was much younger. It's called The Middle-Aged Man and the Sea. I used to think it was a failed song. I called them. Who knows? And then years later, it's like, oh, that's what happened. I am willing. I'm willing to know the hidden part of me, to face the fear below, cast my line into the deep, deep sea. I figure to catch me a big one. I'm wounded and raging and fearsome. Been down there so long, it's grown stubborn and strong. But it's time to come into the sun. I wanna know, I want to feel, I wanna love, go where I must go to see that the monster down below is just a frightened, wounded some part of me. For in the bright light of day, the deepest shadows fade away. And when the troubled sea at last is still, I'll sail my ship where I will. I wanna know, I want to feel, I wanna love, I want to heal. Hear me, I pray to the gods that be. Make me whole.
All right, I think we're going to do the offering now, just get it done. So do we have people going around? Yes. Why don't you just come and start, and Richard, just play some background music while we do the collection. How about if I read some, maybe I'll read some quotes. Why don't you stop? No, not that note. Please, not that note. Oh. Your time is way too valuable to be wasting on people that can't accept who you are. Your time is way too valuable to be wasting on people that can't accept who you are. First, you have to accept yourself, who you are. We must be willing to let go of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Joseph Campbell.
Wow.
When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need. Tao Te Ching. What we don't recognize is that holding on to resentment is like holding on to your breath. You'll soon start to suffocate. Rumi. Oh. Okay, Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Amen. You know the prayer? Someone?
You know the prayer.
Okay, go for it.
Divine love
Through me,
blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Spirit.
All right, great. So I'm going to offer, I'm going to do a song. This song was my mother, I remember my mother singing the song. I didn't really like her voice, Mom. But she got me into, I guess she got me to sing. So let me find the words first.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll May you all be true to yourselves. May you all embrace your own heart. May you know that you can trust your path and your journey, even when everything leaves. There is an opportunity in everything to come back to your own heart, to your own self, your own nurturing. May you all know the truth of who you are, and that's love. Blessings.
So,